Hey guys, it's Overlord here, back in with another edition of Shit, Overlord Says. Today we'll be talking articulation do's and don'ts, the most useful points of articulation, and the most pointless, stupid, and never should have been invented points of articulation. I have to say, this is a subject I've wanted to address for quite some time now. I'm finally gonna do it because, damn it, I'm sick of shit fucking breaking all the time. I'm sick of shit looking off. I'm sick of shit looking god-awful with a bunch of fucking cuts in it. It's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, you don't need to do that. I got these two here because they're kind of the reason I wanted to address this. I didn't mess up these two, thank God, because he's not cheap. Then again, I can find this dude everywhere. It was the Ben Reilly Spider Carnage. Now, the issue's already been addressed. I got a figure. We're going to talk about QC next week, but yeah, I already got a new version coming to me, thanks to Emerald Legend on Instagram. If you don't know who that is, you can check them out. They do some pretty cool toy photography and all that jazz, but we'll talk about that a little bit more next week. But yes, articulation do's and don'ts. Okay. Here are my top pointless points of articulation. The calf swivel is number one because all it does is break the sculpt. The thigh cut breaks the sculpt. The waist swivel breaks the sculpt. Bicep swivel makes it impossible to move the arms up and down. Wide-jointed hips, they're just stupid and a pain in the ass to work with. V-cut swivels, because every cool-looking lady figure I have from the late 90s has that shit, and it sucks because you can't do anything but put them in an automatic spread eagle. Let's see. Ab crunch, because it breaks the sculpt. I mean, that one's more of a break the sculpt as opposed to functionality. That's about 8. I made it pretty close to 10. But here's the deal, okay? I guess mid-thigh swivels and pointless cuts here and there, those will be the rest of the list. But here's the thing. Calf swivels. These guys don't have that, luckily. But the Spider-Man 2099 and Sunfire molds do. I don't think you need a calf swivel unless you have a boot. Then it's a boot cut, okay? It's hidden well, and it doesn't look like shit. That Darkhawk figure from the new Guardians wave from, 4 months ago? That has a calf swivel, and it looks fucking atrocious because it's off on, like, all of the freaking Darkhawks I've ever seen. And when you turn it, it looks like shit, okay? The new Taskmaster, however, from last year, those ankle joints are the best thing ever. The new Moon Knight has that, but we already talked about that shit last week. I don't feel like getting into it again. Okay, so you don't need a calf swivel. Thigh cuts, I prefer like the T-jointed ball joint style hips. And then the thigh cut's just really, really high up there. Or a knee swivel. That's what the NECA Predators do. They have a thigh cut as well. But again, no notice of the actual joint being there. Because it's either covered up or it's, it works with the sculpt. These is the exact opposite. The thigh swivels do not work with the sculpt. It breaks them up. Aside from the Build-A-Figures, which most of the time have that ball type hip joint that's a T-joint, and Sandman and Rhino are what I have out right now. Unless the legs are like really, really round, like say some of the female figures, it doesn't look as bad on some. The Black Cat body in particular doesn't look as bad because there's not a lot of sculpt there. These guys, where they got a lot of sculpt in the thigh area, it looks pretty bad. The waist swivel, you could just solve that and the ab crunch with a diaphragm joint. The only problem is you're going to break up the paint. I would much prefer, say, a ball-jointed waist, and I can deal with the ab crunch. Because that would not break up that sculpt as much. Perhaps. That or it just doesn't need to be there. I mean, DC Icons, they don't have a waist swivel. They have that weird lower torso crunch, and then they have a diaphragm joint, which is pretty much a swivel. But yeah, you don't need all these cuts. It's 2017. I think we can make the figures look a little cleaner. The bicep swivel, my only gripe with that is if the shoulder is really stiff, you risk snapping that joint clean off. I've done it on that stupid ass movie Thor figure from that 4-pack last year. Well, that's when I reviewed it. I got it like Christmas 2 years ago. I don't remember. I got it when it came out. Whatever. So yeah, I don't like that. If the bicep is, decent, these guys, I don't have that sort of problem. It's mostly the butterfly joints with this mold, which these butterfly joints, excuse me, knocked his ass over. These butterfly joints here are shit. I'll be completely honest with you. Because when you try and move the thing and it's stuck, you're going to snap it like a twig. And that's what happened to my Spider Carnage. The problem is it's only connected on the bottom here. So it's connected to the bottom part of the chest. It's not connected up here near the, is this a tricep? I don't know, the neck, I suppose, just for lack of better term. The upper shoulder area right here. It's not connected there. If it was connected here, you would have no problem. They fixed that with Spidey 2099, Sunfire, and whoever else is using that mold, which is good. I like that. Are they still going to use this? Yeah, but I mean, as long as it doesn't have those kinds of issues, I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. I did actually get Iron Fist to crack. I got that one to move around Christmas time last year. I just picked it up, tried to move it, and it gave, and it started to go, so that was nice. But Spider Carnage, I stuck him in the freezer, tried to do all that, and yeah, it came off. So pointless joint. If it's not, if the structure is not good, I suppose is what I'm trying to say there. But yeah, I was going to try and keep these under 5 minutes. That's not happening. So, either way, I think I pretty much made my point. Articulation do's and don'ts. If you're going to put a cut there, make sure it's hidden. If you're going to have a certain joint implemented, say like the butterfly joint, make sure it's sturdy. Make sure it's not shit. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not even that big on articulation. I mean, I have a lot of figures that are 5PA, like my gargoyles and all the old 90s stuff I have. It's not that articulated. Even this Space Ghost I showed in my last video, he wasn't articulated insanely. So, what are you going to do? But, yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it somewhat insightful, despite my rants and raves. And yeah, also, another thing to address. If you're going to give it any leg movement to any figure, you need a rocker. And you also need to make sure the foot can move forward a decent amount so you can get them in a walking pose. I've been at it with the Star Wars Black Series Snowtrooper for a while, and he just does not want to get in walking pose, so. I guess that's a minor thing, but just think it should be noted. But yeah, with that being said, again, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, I will check you guys later.